it comes to poetry, you may have heard of a concept called meter, but what does that even mean? What really kind of determines the rhythm of whatever piece is that you're using, and whether you're intentionally using meter or not, your poem is incorporating it. So it's kind of good just to have a general awareness of what is the rhythm of my speech doing. So there's a couple of terms that you want to be familiar with. The first one of these is going to be IAMs. IAMs are when you're going to have an unstressed sound followed by a stressed sound. Like if you say like I'm late, I'm late. Da 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 da. That sort of pattern is called an IAM. Next one is a trochee. That's when you start with a stress and then a weak one. It's like this is, this is, da da, heavy and then weak. Then you can have two or more heavy stresses. Those would be like your spondies. If you do like this, that's called a spondee where everything is stressed. The last couple rhythms we're going to be looking at in poems are going to be an anapest, which is basically unstressed, unstressed, stress, like da da da. Da 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 da. Kind of feels like galloping a little bit like a horse. And then lastly, you have the opposite of that, which is a dactyl, which is a heavy stress followed by 2 weeks, like da 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 da. So now we've kind of gone through those rhythms. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at what does this actually look like inside of a poem, because sometimes you think you're doing one thing with meter, but you're actually doing something else when you read it. Hello guys, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to your weekly poetry analysis show, Fine Print. My name is Jeff. I'm going to be guiding you on this poetry journey today, and this is an analysis show. This is not a feedback show. So we're not here to critique, give suggestions, look at what's, working super well versus what are some things that are causing confusion. We're just trying to see what's actually happening inside of a poem and just name it. That's our entire piece. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at a piece that was given to us by at Jackie Strength. So I want to thank them for allowing us to even look at their piece, because they certainly did not have to do that. So we greatly appreciate that. So we're going to be looking at a piece that they sent us to see what they have going on from a meter perspective. Now, of course, this is a collaborative effort. So if there are things that you noticed that I have failed to highlight, I encourage you, let us know. Let us talk about the things that you see in the piece as well. Let's take a look at what the piece actually looks like. This was sent over to us on Threads. So again, if you have a piece that you'd like us to see in the future on Threads, what you can do, you can tag us and we will add it to our backlog. And if we have time in the future, we'll take a look. We try to cover as many pieces as we can throughout the year, but typically each show we're only looking at a single piece. So this is, again, our poem, Untitled, at least that I'm aware of. 15 things I can never tell you. 15 things you'll never know. 15 things that I keep hidden. 15 things I will never show. Signs are found in words I speak. Evidence in my glances. Leaked, if you could unearth my darkest heart, I would share my deepest parts. Decipher me with silent stares and quiet moments, with just us there. Decode my inner policies, and I will give you everything, for I am only half a soul, these hidden lies. They only grow in each day I become further from an honest love. It pains me deep, this web I spin. These 15 things I me in this brutal hell. I wish to scream. These 15 things I wish redeemed unvoiced deceit. Still, I hide these 15 things I keep inside. Want to thank them again, Jackie Strength, for allowing us to look at the work. Let's just explore what's happening here meter-wise. This is a poem that's using rhyme. If you are a poet that uses rhyme in your own work and you're not considering meter, it is something that I certainly would encourage you to think about. You don't have to, but it can help add another layer to the work you're doing with rhymes, because one of the things that can happen with rhymes is it can really feel forced and the rhymes can become very like super apparent, and to the point where they become distracting. In meter, in some ways, can kind of help prevent that or kind of force the poem forward a little bit. We'll also give some tips for reading meter. Give me one moment. I'm going to bring up the poem again in a format where I can take some notes. And our goal is we're just going to kind of count and identify where we hear stresses and where we don't hear stresses. And I think the key thing is that we really need to, as we do this exercise, we really need to treat each line independently and don't get hung up on the meter. We need to see what's actually going on in the line itself to see what is the actual meter that would best serve. Because sometimes, again, we think we're doing one thing when maybe a different meter structure is actually occurring or would actually sound more natural upon reading. So let us take a look at our piece. Give me one sec. All right, and behold. So this is our poem. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to mark off the places where personally I would stress. And if you know, as someone for one of my jobs that I do is I work with students on things like pronunciation, American English. And so we're very interested in things like sentence rhythm and things like that, identifying stressed words and things. But one of the beauties of it, because it's a language, is there's always more than one possible answer. So if you stress things differently, that's fine. Just keep us posted in the chat. If you're watching this on the replay, let us know where you personally would mark things off. So without even saying like, oh, we have iams or oh, we have trochees, let's just kind of see where we would mark things off rhythmically in this piece. Okay. 15 things. So that's like 3 syllables, right? So you have 15 things I can never tell you. That's kind of the rhythm that I get for that line. 15 things I can never tell you. So notice I'm using a heavy slash for the stress and then a dash for an unstress. Okay. So 15 things I can never tell you. That's my first line. So notice that towards the end, or at first we don't really have any decisive rhythm. And then after that, I can never tell you. Once we're towards the end, to me, it sounds like we're getting to some trochees. We're getting to some da-da, never tell you. But the first part's kind of meandering a little bit, okay, in terms of rhythm. I'll also say that, for instance, even if you look at like Shakespearean sonnets and things, or like a lot of the old romantic poets or poems from the Renaissance, what you often find is there is a meter, but it's not like the meter is going to be followed 100%. There's always going to be moments where things kind of shift a little bit, and that's okay because it makes the poem breathe a little bit. Let's see what our next rhythm is. 15 things you'll never know. Notice that this time for me, like 15 things you'll never know. 15 things you'll never know. For me, those are really the only stresses. Like if I'm saying the sentence, 15 things you'll never know. Versus in the first line, 15 things I can never tell you. Because of that, like can never, that makes the never pop out more. But when we lose that verb, for me, everything just kind of flows more. 15 things you'll never know. I mentioned earlier that, you know, sometimes we think we're doing one thing rhythmically, but then when we actually read the line, we're not always doing that. Because we may think, for instance, maybe we intended to do like trochees, and then I don't know what Jackie was. I don't want to speak for Jackie. Okay, I don't think the goal was trochees, but maybe. Let's imagine though that we wrote this thinking trochees. Then I might end up forcing myself to do like 15 things you'll never know. But that's not exactly the same rhythm, right? 15 things you'll never know versus 15 things you'll never know. 15 things you'll never know. 15 things you'll never know. 2 different rhythms, right? And I think in honesty, for me personally, the second one sounds a lot more natural. 15 things you'll never know. But that's a different rhythm, right? Because now we're kind of getting more into like almost more like anapests, right? Like da 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 da. 15 things you'll never know. We keep going. 15 things that I keep hidden. Now you may be like, I could understand if someone's like, no, I put a stress on I. It's like, see if you can hear a difference rhythmically. 15 things that I keep hidden. 15 things that I keep hidden. Can you hear that difference in rhythm there? Okay. And this is really important when you're thinking about like performing poems because if you're going hardcore with the meter, sometimes that can make things feel a little bit awkward or maybe ends up with stresses that you're not intending. Like 15 things that I keep hidden. I don't know how pleasing that is for an entire poem for your audience versus like 15 things that I keep hidden, which might sound a little bit more like natural speech, right? And then 15 things I will never show. So notice that this is just like what we saw earlier with can. Because we have this will, and earlier we had this can, I think that's causing, for me anyways, that next word, again, never, to get stressed. Because we have that will before it. We have that auxiliary verb. Okay, so having an impact on the rhythm there. Let me know if you guys are hanging with me. What are your thoughts? Am I doing the same rhythm you are? Are you doing a different rhythm? Maybe you're stressing things like 15 things I can never tell you versus 15 things. I would love to know what stands out to you more when you say 15 things. Where are you putting the stresses on the 15 or is it more on the things? Let's keep rolling. Signs are found in words I speak. So one of the things that's also kind of happening here is all of your lines are kind of end stopped, right? So like it's almost like we have a period. Change the color. That's how it kind of feels to me. It almost feels like each line is end stopped. Period. 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 So our lines to me don't really feel like they're running. Like everyone's a complete thought. 15 things I can never tell you. That's a complete thought. 15 things you'll never know. Like it's not, we don't have a lot of enjambment going on. Enjambment, like taking the line continue, like the idea of the line, the sentence continues even if the line breaks. There's not a lot of that happening, right? So for instance, it really feels like 15 things I will never show. Signs are found in words I speak. Like that again, there's not really, I'm not supposed to read this, I don't think, as 15 things I'll never show. Signs are found. No, it sounds to me like we really have like a period there. Okay. So one of the things you can do if you're writing in meter and you're like, oh man, this is sounding a little choppy, right? 15 things I never tell you, 15 things you'll never know, 15 things that I keep hidden, 15 things I'll never show. It gets very formulaic, right? So if you don't want that to happen, if you don't like that rhythm, if it sounds too much almost like a robot or something like that, or too predictable, then this is where enjambment comes in. Okay. Um, so that's a way that you can kind of read a poem with meter or read a poem with rhyme without just kind of beating your audience over and over again in the head with the rhyme. If you're trying to avoid that, enjambment's going to be your best friend because it's not going to allow that to happen. The rhymes are going to be much more subtle. And some members of our audience are going to pick up on it, and they may appreciate not having to be beaten down by rhyme over and over again. Signs are found in words I speak. Evidence in my glances. One of the things with meter too, and one of the things that kind of led me to think about having this discussion on meter with this poem, was the fact that when you have rhyme and when you have meter, something that can happen is we can almost end up in like Yoda talk because it's like, oh, I need my rhyme or I'm trying to meet my meter standards. So we end up switching things and ending up with sentences that sound a little bit less natural, right? So like signs are found in words I speak. Um, signs are found in words, not necessarily a way that you would talk colloquially, right? Um, like I wouldn't tell someone like signs are found in words I speak. No, are there signs in the words that I'm using, or like something like that, right? So sometimes you can end up inverting grammar just to make the meter work or the line work or the rhyme work. And just to note, your listener or your reader is going to be aware of what you're doing. And I think it can be helpful depending on the goal of your poem to, you know, you have a choice, right? You have a choice like, oh, I'm going to put the rhyme as the priority, or oh, I'm going to put kind of like the natural sound as the priority. So it's kind of deciding what path you want to follow there. Signs are found in words I speak. Evident. Oh, let's do the meter first. That's our real goal. So what's going on here? Signs are found in words I speak. For me, if I'm saying this, that's the rhythm that would feel most natural for me. Signs are found in words I speak. Signs are found in words I speak. I don't think I'm stressing speak. I think I'm just stressing. So I'm personally, if I'm reading this, I have two stresses. It's like signs are found, so we almost get that like that dactyl. Okay, signs are found in words I speak. See if that the weak stress and then almost feels like anapest. Signs are found, or another dactyl, excuse me, in words I speak. Evidence, stress, dense in my glances. Evidence in my glances. That's how I read that. Evidence, stress on ev, and then stress on glances. Evidence in my glances leaked. Evidence in my glances leaked. So if we're trying to like kind of map this one out, this one probably has the most straightforward meters. Like evidence, that's going to be right up there. So that's going to be your dactyl. And evidence in my glances. Anapest. Glance. Evidence in my glance. That's your anapest. And then sis. Leaked. And then you have your I am, potentially. For your rhythm. How about our next line? Think about for yourself. You can even pause the video and think about for yourself. If you could unearth my darkest heart, my darkest heart, my darkest heart. So I feel like I would probably a little bit away on darkest and then also a little bit away on heart. Okay. If you, so if, so this is for me the first time we're kind of starting off with a weaker stress. It's like, if you could unearth my darkest heart. If you could unearth my darkest heart. You know, I wouldn't personally read this. If you could have unearthed, if you could unearth my darkest heart, because that gets a little bit robotic. So I think taking the stress off of unearth allows it to flow a little bit more. If you could unearth my darkest heart. So I would just have the three stresses. If you, dar, and heart. If you could unearth my darkest heart, I would share. I wouldn't personally put the stress on I. A lot of times in English, pronouns don't get stressed. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they're not. To me, the share is the really key part. I would share my deepest parts. Share my deepest parts. I would share. So that to me feels like anapest. I would share my I am best parts. I am. Okay. Let's keep going. What else we got? Decipher. So again, we're starting with weak stress again. Decipher me with silent stares. So one of the things that's already become apparent, and this is one of the nice things about meter, is you can use meter to, you know, reinforce meaning and things like that when done with intentionality. So one of the things that we're seeing consistently in this piece is, notice how we're closing a lot of these. So we tend to be closing, I would say, like our last like 4 stresses very often. We're switching to things more, we're switching to a lot more I ams, like da-da, da-da, or we're switching to more trochees lines. What's going on there? Well, we're kind of doing the opposite, right? In this first parts, we're ending up with lot more anapaests, like da 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 da, or we're ending up with a lot more dactyls, like da 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 da. Anapaests and dactyls, in my opinion, these allow you to kind of flow a little bit more. Each of these lines a little bit softer. And then, okay, sorry, a little bit of spike. So why is this important? Like anapaests versus dactyls. Well, one of the things is if you're starting with an anapaest or a dactyl, you have that extra foot, the extra part of your meter, so you're kind of able to flow into things a little bit more. To kind of can like lull people in. Versus like iams and trochees tend to be a little bit punchier. Da 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 or da 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 versus da 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 or like da 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 da. So this is something that's becoming a pretty consistent pattern throughout this. So once you're aware of what you're doing, you can be like, okay, so I have this pattern that's emerging. How is this moving my poem forward? Or you can also approach it with more intentionality. So instead of like discovering what your meter is, you can kind of approach and be like, okay, I'm going to write this poem, and every line is going to start like this, and every line is going to end like this. And I'm using that to reinforce some sort of concept in the poem. Because this is why we use meter. We're not just using meter just to use meter. We're using meter, hopefully, as a tool to reinforce some sort of concept or going on in the poem. Everything is in service to the poem. We're not just doing things, willy nilly for fun. Okay, let's do a couple more lines of this just to kind of see what the stress patterns are. See if they continue. By the way, we can also use this, for instance, for turns. So like, I want to see if I'm going to go towards the end to see if anything shifts. It's like I'm looking down here. I wish to tell. I wish to scream. Well, that's unusual, right? I wish to tell. I wish to scream. So we're losing some stresses now here, right? And then we haven't gotten a line that's just straight iams, right? This is all iams. I wish to tell. I wish to scream. We haven't had that happen before. Okay. What that can do, especially, it's interesting because this is fine. This is happening right around. So this is your final third. Why is the final third important from a poetry perspective? Well, this is typically, and I'm not saying this exact moment is what's happening here, but this is typically where you would expect what's called your turn. And your turn is the moment where everything changes. There's a change that happens to the speaker or whatever. Something happens in the poem. And so this is another reason why meter can be really helpful, is because if you're using one meter for the first, 2/3 of your poem, and then your last third you change the meter, this is another way you can indicate to your reader that, oh, we are undergoing a transition or a shift. Okay, there's other ways you can do it too, but if we're using a poem with meter, this is one way that you can kind of capture that. So for instance, this line here having a few missing stress and then staying with the single pattern is really interesting. And then these fifth, it's like, now also notice too, before we had 15 things, 15 things, 15 things, but we've shifted now to like these 15 things, and that changed our rhythm, right? These 15 things I wish redeemed. It's like these 15 things I wish redeemed. Unvoiced deceit. Still I hide. Okay, now we're some interesting rhythms here, but I think the I wish to tell, I wish to scream line to me is really kind of standing out, something unique. All right, guys, in the interest of time, I'm going to stop us here, but let me know, what are some thoughts on stress? Did you mark off any of these lines a little bit differently than me? Did you have questions about meter and how to do it? Are you using meter in your own poems? Keep me posted on all these things. Again, this is our Friday show. I mean, that is just wrong. This is our Sunday show. Sunday show fine print. Again, we're doing this every Sunday about 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes on Sundays, where we analyze a poem that you send us. If you have a poem that you'd like us to consider in the future, you can tag us. We're most active on Threads, so that we also get some stuff out on Instagram and Facebook as well, especially for our events. Once more, my name is Jeff. We will be back on Tuesday with another episode of Diverses Live, where we kind of just talk about a poetry related topic or a business related writing topic, and go in on that. If there's a topic that we can cover that would be helpful for you, be sure to let us know. But besides that, I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and good afternoon. We'll catch you on next episode of Fine Print. Take care, guys.